on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hollywood Already Did It, your movie podcast for reboots, remakes, sequels, and why we continue to dig through what was to find something new. As always, I'm your host, Blake Schultz, and with me is Terrence Tatum.
Hello, everyone.
And this week we are talking about the, I guess, long awaited. Took us so long to make. Here it is, though, after 10 years since 3, so 20 since the first one.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley, the fourth in the Axel Foley franchise. Eddie Murphy's back in action, and here we are to see what we're doing, why it worked before, and why it's working now. Terrence, what'd you like about the movie?
Yeah. This is a funny franchise for me. Because my first recollection of this franchise was a kid, and I back then they used to play these movies on like the UHF. I'm dating myself, but on TV, the UHF channels all the time. And so I used to get Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2 mixed up, like blended together, because they would just always air them and I never would get to see them at the start of them. And so I enjoyed what I saw, but I never really separated them. But I was like, oh, this movie is great. And then as I got older, I saw Beverly Hills Cop 3, and I was like, what in the blue hell is this? Everything that this franchise thought it was about sort of just turned on its head and changed. It became very, very different. And so I know they've been trying to get this off the ground for ages. They did a pilot, TV pilot that didn't work. And Eddie actually decided to be a part of it. But Eddie has been specifically like, hey, I want the script to be perfect. I want the script to be perfect. And so I got a little bit of hesitation to go see this or watch this on Netflix, because Coming to America was terrible as a legacy sequel. And so I got a little apprehensive, like, hey, I don't know if Eddie should just keep going down the wheelhouse of ruining all of his old franchises. And I'm happy to say I enjoyed every single piece of this movie from start to finish. I was just in hog heaven. It feels like an 80s 90s action film. Like, it doesn't go too big. It's a helicopter sequence that gets a little large, but for the most part it doesn't get too big. It sort of stays in that little middle ground, middle tier area. And Eddie is in full display as Axel Foley. It feels like, hey, this is what Axel Foley would become had he become older and a dad. Some of them are dad jokes, but some of them are still like Axel Foley isms of it all. And just to see the entire rest of the crew back with Taggart and the whole crew, and even we get Surge with Bronson Pinchot back, which is great, because Bronson Pinchot, I don't know what map he's falling off from, but it's great to see him around. Just to kind of get the whole game back. It felt like, hey, I'm revisiting home, and the story was good. It didn't feel like my issue with 2 after I rewatched that's a direct mirror image of 1. This feels like a fresh new story, and it works. It feels new while also still hitting all the notes of what we're supposed to get there. And it's good to sort of see Eddie having fun, and kind of getting that fast talking thing that we haven't had. A lot of Eddie's newer films have been a little family oriented, and sort of to get the foul mouth Axel Foley, I was like, yeah, he still got it. He can still do this. And so, yeah, I had a good time.
It was, yeah, I really, it scratched an itch. I think this and Bad Boys for Life have really scratched a big itch for me in the, like, I don't know what else to call it besides like buddy cop, but like also
Mhm.
like witty back and forth. Everyone's kind of on the page. But like, first and foremost, what I liked the most about it is that, unlike other legacy sequels we've gotten, I'll pick on Ghostbusters a little bit, it's sort of remembered to like be a comedy before it did anything else. It remembered
Yeah.
kind of what worked about 1 and 2 that 3 forgot. And for those who don't know, 3 came out in 94. He's at a theme park. Eddie Murphy has decided that Axel Foley should be a serious person now. He's grown up. There's only so many times I can pretend to be somebody else and get somewhere where I don't belong. And John Landis, who of course is a not great person as the director, and just nobody got along, and you can see it in the movie. It's very weirdly dramatic. The story's strange. It's really the antithesis of these movies. It almost feels like a reversed Austin Powers, where those were like a spoof of James Bond, and it feels like someone took Axel Foley and was like, but what if it was serious? Like, if this was a BoJack Horseman or some other like parody show, that would be the poster in the background, like, he's here and now
Yeah.
he's awesome. And this kind of goes right back to basics immediately in our first scene in the hockey rink, and we sort of tap into him making people feel uncomfortable, getting where we don't belong. Really just
Got
kind of,
I have to say how much I love that. I'm from Detroit, so seeing Little Caesars and the Red Wings and all that in the opening sequence, I'm like, yes, sign me up. I love it. Oh,
yeah,
did I freeze?
a
All
little bit, but
right.
I think we got all the
Yeah,
audio.
no, I was what I was saying. Okay, cool.
Yeah. But yes, I liked that. I also sort of enjoyed whenever we do a like, oh man, people don't think we can make jokes about these kind of things. And then we have the like, no, we're gonna do it over here. We're gonna do it over here. We're gonna
Yeah,
punch in the right direction and it's gonna be great. And to hit that right away and then have a big action sequence follow it, you sort of immediately were like, oh, great. And in doing that, we didn't get like bogged down where other legacy sequels do, where we have to deal with like the estranged family member or the daughter who doesn't want to be a part of it, or all of these kind of other things that start kind of weighing some of these series down.
yeah. I mean, that's still here, but I think unlike those, they start and focus with Axel. Like I think a lot of times with the legacy sequels, they introduce us as an audience to this world again via the new person or whoever it is, and we don't have any attachment. This one, we just say, hey, this is Axel. He's still doing his same. He's still doing the same thing. We get Paul Reiser showing up again. We still have that connection, and then we introduce Taylor Page as Jane to sort of say, okay, now this character. And I like it when legacy sequels just say, hey, this person's been here. Like we've 20 years have passed. She's been around. She has connected to some of the other players that we know. So we don't have to go into this whole thing that they've never seen each other. They've at least been around each other. Just something has happened in their life where they've separated. And that's easier to swallow than saying, we're going to follow Jane from start to finish. And this is her movie. This is still Axel's film. It's just how he navigates with his daughter and helps Rosewood.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we did right. Is we really were like, it's the Axel Foley movie. We're not
Right.
gonna put him in the background. He's not just gonna get a cameo. We're not gonna kind of make him a villain in any way. We're really gonna kind of deal with this and even deal with like how his style of being is affected this family and watch them come back together and watch them like work together in a really fun and inventive way. Of even the moments where she's like, you were floundering, I had to step in. I was
Yeah.
gathering information is what I was doing.
Yeah.
I don't think you understood what you saw. um
Yeah,
yeah,
I think what
seeing,
happens a lot of times with these legacy sequels, what bothers me, sometimes they'll try to get in and deconstruct or make fun of the previous ones, and this one's like, nope, we're going to do what made that work, and that's what I think shines a bit than some of these legacy sequels.
yeah, I completely agree. We had a lot more of welcome back and let's have fun in our playground than we did throwing anything out or kind of like resisting to give you what the audience wants. Like I know a lot of people with Ghostbusters have kind of keep being like, but I want the team. But I
Mm-hmm.
want, if we're going to do this, get the team back for one more adventure. Even the Star Wars movies, which I enjoyed. I know a lot of people were like, but I want everyone in the Millennium Falcon together.
Right.
I want to see this team in the way that like it grew up. And it was nice kind of getting that with Axel and not really losing the spirit of the other franchises. Cause it's funny when you go back to kind of everyone's mentality of three and everyone's sort of resistance to doing what we did before. And I get it because you're right. One and two are very similar, the way a lot of sequels
Mm-hmm.
are, the way a lot of like Austin Powers one and two, and even three are hitting
Especially
the
that era.
same
Yeah.
jokes.
Die
Um,
Hard 1 and 2 are yeah. Yeah.
so I understand the resistance, but it was fun to kind of, it's almost sad when you hear that resistance a little bit because you're like, but I like it when you're, but that's
That's
what
what
I
works.
want, Eddie. I want
Yeah.
you to pretend to be somebody else and do all this and get in here. And we
Yeah.
hit all the old bits of it being like, oh, you can never have too much firepower. I'm keeping it in the Rambo knife. And you're like, oh, yeah, this guy's still insane. I fucking
Yeah.
love it.
Rosewood gets a rocket launcher and is like, I missed you, Rosewood, but you still.
I also really dug the villain and his motivation. There was,
Kevin Bacon can do no wrong for me. Like he's fantastic. And I love that you get detective work in here. So you get Axel the second he sees him, clocks him like something ain't right with
oh,
that
I
guy.
didn't get a Rolex
And
when I got shot. That
right.
was, I think, a
There's
lot of my favorite moments were this weird, like, yeah, that's not how we do it in Detroit.
right. Yeah. Yeah. But Kevin Bacon's having fun. I liked Jane. Um, and I could see them having the movie had moments too where they got some dramatic beats where you got to see Eddie and Taylor Page sort of have moments of drama, which the previous ones had not had, which is fun because it didn't bog down the rest of it. It just kind of had these moments where like we're gonna take a pause. There's something that these two have to work out, but then we got right back into all right. Here's the buddy cop of it all, and
Yeah,
Joseph
and
Gordon's fun too.
oh, I'm so glad he's back. I don't know where he went,
Yeah,
but it was real. I almost
yeah.
didn't recognize him at first. Then I was like, "That's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He was in a Batman movie. Remember when he was in movies? He used to be in movies. Now he's not in movies. This is great." Yeah, real fun seeing him back in action. Real fun having him as the like antithesis of like, I read all your files. You're insane.
Yeah.
And then kind of even watching him get on their page. Like once you had him off the case and them off and we all went rogue is when you were really like, great, new team. And I would watch this new team for many more movies. Awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed pretty much everything in the movie. All the jokes landed for me. We never really had a moment of slowdown. I thought it was also good to give the villain something we related to and is like current, especially if you live in LA. Like even when he's like, I got shot. I can't afford to live in the city that I police in. And you're like, oh no.
Yeah, I'm like,
I understand this man's
I know
problem.
this
I
all
also
too
can't
well.
afford to live in the city that I work in. Oh no.
I'm like Axel. I've gone from Detroit to LA too, and I get this pain.
I understand this. I don't want to understand this villain because he's very bad. But it's yeah, we did a lot of why it's relevant, why it's fresh. We kept the villain still bad, but like you get it. And I'm kind of getting tired of villains where I'm like, man's making some good points. It was sort of good to be like, that man has a good point, but he is also evil.
He's a terrible man. Yeah.
No, it would have, and it really also it's kind of nice having a Netflix movie that was like, this is a really good Netflix movie. This is like, they can do this.
We've put so many times where they're like, hey, we'll show our budget. It's $300 million. And you're like, yeah, but this isn't a good movie. This is the first time we're like, the budget's lower. But you're like, hey, this is actually a quality. You could have released this in theaters. Like, this is a really well done film. Which is something that I don't think Netflix can. Netflix has become sort of the Mikey likes it a little bit of movies. We're like, we're gonna keep throwing stuff at you, and one of these has to stick. You'll enjoy something.
Eventually, we'll get it. Don't worry. You're stuck here until you leave.
Yeah, but yeah, I had a good time with this. I think what I think resonated the most with me is that there were moments where you could see Axel still thinks like the 20-year-old version, but he's like, I'm a grown up. Like,
but I got it. Yeah.
Try to like rent a room. He's like, I'm not doing all this.
Yeah, I'm done with this. I need a room. That was one of my favorite, like almost callbacks to the first one because that was his first big like pretend. And he was like, yeah, I'm too tired now. Which was also the only time we really did a like, we're getting older because a lot of these other legacy sequels really just want to be like, but we're old now. And I'm like, we don't need to do this.
And what's cool about that joke and why that joke works is that no one actually physically verbally says, I've aged out, I'm old. It's just like his life. I don't have time.
And it almost plays as just him being tired of the situation. He's not too old to do it. He's almost more just like, yeah, I got beat. My daughter doesn't want to talk to me. My buddy's missing. Everyone's against me. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
But it's great. I highly recommend anybody go to their couch.
If you go to their couch to watch it. I mean, there was one theater out here, probably because it's Beverly Hills. They probably were like, hey, we're going to do it here. But like, yeah, I really do wish, especially in a week where there wasn't an adult release, like Despicable Me was the only real release. I'm odd that they didn't decide to do a counter programming and just do, hey, we're going to release this on Netflix as well as in theater just to sort of get an audience, because this audience, there's enough people that would go see this in a theater.
Oh yeah, they could have really done this, but
yeah, I would love to come. I know Eddie and Taggart and all of them are up there in age, but I would like to come back to this world again.
We could do one or two more. We could get a little. Joseph Gordon-Levitt isn't there to just show up.
I honestly don't know why they haven't done this yet, but I'm not sure why we've never reversed cities. And like,
I had that thought too. Why we're not ever going to Detroit?
Like, it's always him going back to the Beverly Hills. Like, why don't they come to Detroit? Like, that would be a wild, especially Rosewood's crazy behind in Detroit. That'd be wild.
Oh, he'd love it. He'd love it. Yeah, I don't know why that was never the obvious, simple sequel, but No, it's great. I think that is it for us on this one. So we will
Yeah.
talk to you guys later. Of course, you can go to the Hollywood Already Did It YouTube channel where Terrence has all of our show reviews and trailer reactions. We're on Twitter at Hollywood80i. I'm at As Always Blake, and Terrence is at Terrence Tatum, and we will be back very quickly with Maxine.